Hi everybody, today we're going to be talking about 5 tips for fishing with soft plastic swim baits as we start to get ready for pre-spawn fishing, so stay tuned. Welcome back. Hey, this is Sean here with Rugged Outdoors, and here on this channel we talk about all things related to the great outdoors, whether it's hunting, fishing, camping. If it's outdoors, we're going to try to cover it. Today, we're going to be talking about the 5 best tips that we have for fishing with soft plastic swim baits like this one I've got here. All right, so tip number 5, we're going to start at the end and go work our way up to the best one, is matching the hatch. You really want to make sure that the size of your swim bait that you're using matches the size of the bait that you find in the water. Now, you can check that a variety of different ways as you see bait swimming around in the water, kind of make sure you're the right size. You know, there's a couple different sizes that we're going to have, and you can see them here. We've got, you know, a longer one, we've got some different smaller ones, and even this little small paddle tail here. We really want to try to match the size of the bait that we're going to use to fish with the size of the bait in the water. All right, tip number 4 really doesn't have anything to do with the bait, but really has to do with the type of hook set you're going to use. A lot of times when you first get that bite, what do? We yank that sucker and we're ready to set that hook as hard as we can. We don't want to do that with a swim bait. What we want to do is we want to give that fish time to come up and grab that bait, wait till you start to feel that line load up, and then as you do, just continue to reel and sweep with your rod. Okay? You don't want to just, as soon as you feel that bite, you don't want to jerk, because oftentimes the fish has only got this much of the bait in his mouth. What you want to do is give him time to get all the way up, get his mouth closed around that bait, and then when you do, you start to feel that pressure on that rod, continue to reel the whole time, and then right as you get ready, sweep the hook set, don't yank it really hard. Tip number 3 has to do with the rod that you're going to be using. You really want a medium heavy rod with a fast action tip on it to help with that hook set. And we talked about that sweeping hook set type you wanted to use. Well, we did a video last year, I'll link up here, that we talked about the 5 best rods, and one of those is a Lew's medium heavy fast action rod, which would be a great selection to use for the swim bait technique. Again, because what you really want is you want that bait, when that fish gets on the back of that bait and it begins to load up, you want that tip to have a little bit of give to it before you set the hook, as we talked about, remember, sweeping in tip number 4, but you really want to give that rod all the ability to help take care of that for you. And a good 7 foot, 7.2, 7.3 foot rod, medium heavy fast action rod will be a great selection for that. All right, tip number 2 is the type of line that you use. We're gonna recommend that you use a fluorocarbon line, probably about 15, 17, or 20 pound test. The point behind it is fluorocarbon has a little bit of flex to it. Again, remember, we've talked about this in the other tips. Our rod, we want it to give a little bit. Our hook set, we wanna make sure that fish gets it, and we wanna have that nice sweeping type hook set. And our fluorocarbon is also gonna have a little bit of stretch to it. And that's what we want, just a tad. Some people like to use braid. I personally think that it has no give whatsoever, and I think you're gonna miss more fish using braid than you are using fluorocarbon. I'm probably gonna use about a 15 pound test, maybe even 17 depending on the water clarity. If it's super clear, I'm gonna go to 15, and depending on the size. You know, we talked also about matching the hatch size. So if you're using the really small swim baits, you know, 2 inches, 3 inch, you know, I might change it and even go down a little smaller. Maybe even fish it on a spinning rod for that matter. But really, again, I think most of the time we're gonna be fishing about the 4 inch to 5 inch type swim baits, and so I'm gonna be using the fluorocarbon to do that. All right, now for our number 1 tip for when you're fishing with a swim bait like this, with these metal jig heads, is super glue. Yep, super glue. I can tell you right now, if you're not using super glue on your swim baits, you're gonna be missing fish. And let me explain why. So the first thing that we do, there's a particular kind of glue that I like, and there's a couple of reasons. This is the Loctite Superglue Gel Control. If you're interested in it, you can find some links down below about it. In fact, everything we've talked about in here, we'll have links down below for the different items. I use the Gel Control because, one, it's not gonna run whenever I use it. So what I'm really gonna be doing is I'm gonna pull back this swim bait head a little bit, and I'm gonna take a little bit of this Gel Control stuff, and I'm gonna put it right here on this head. And you know, when this jig is wet after being in the water or whatever, and I'm gonna put some of that on there, if you use the runny stuff, it doesn't stick very well. I'm gonna push that up onto the bait, the jig right there, squish that head up there and get that glue nice and good. Give that a few seconds to let it cure. And what this is gonna help you do is, one, it's gonna save you some money because you're not gonna be losing swim baits all the time. Because what a lot of times will happen, those fish will come up, they'll grab this and they'll pull, they'll swipe at it and it'll pull and it'll tear and it'll separate, and you're gonna be sitting there jacking with this. And the moment that this gets all torn up here in the top and this bait starts to slide down as you're pulling it through the water column, it doesn't look natural anymore. Hey, I hope you found today's video helpful. You know, swim baits are a great bait that can be used in a lot of different situations. One of the best situations is when you're trying to catch suspended fish, and almost hardly any other bait does a good job of it. The swim bait allows you to get that bait anywhere in that water column that you want, depending upon how far you let it count down, and get to those, and a lot of times you can catch fish that other people aren't catching. So if you like today's video, please hit that like button, subscribe if you're so inclined. If you're looking for things, you know, what we talked about in the video, please check out the links in the description for more information. And hey, we look forward to seeing you in the great outdoors.